All right. Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Rise and Grind Morning Show. It is May 8th, 2024. Rocking and rolling here at 8:03 a.m. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning. Of course, we'll be joined by Eric Rintamaki this morning. Good morning, Eric. How are you doing today?
Hey, everybody. Fantastic.
Yeah, kind of a rough night. So I want to first thank everybody that showed up to last night's show that I tried to cancel. I put out some messages. I tried to remove it from the streaming service, but I don't know what happened. I don't know why it didn't cancel, but clearly we had, more pressing issues last night. And that's where I'm going to start is mass casualty event in Michigan, multiple tornadoes on the ground in Michigan last night. Just a few minutes from my home. There's a lot of homes destroyed, businesses destroyed, mobile home parks disappeared, and people are missing or dead. And it's a crazy situation yesterday. So that's why we weren't able to be on. We had to make sure that we were safe, get family members that don't have basements, or at least a way to get safer, be a little safer here at my home. And that's what I had to do. So my heart is with all of these people affected. We're going to try to put something together to support these people. I'm going to try to get down there later on this afternoon or tomorrow and see what we can do to help. Pretty crazy situation that none of these sirens were going off, and pretty large tornadoes. I don't have all of the information right now, but watching it unfold, I mean, between Ohio, Indiana, and Michigan, multiple tornadoes, a lot of people are displaced. So Rockdown Podcast Network is certainly with you guys, and we're going to try to do whatever we can to support and help. That's what we like to do here. Eric, what do you got to say on the situation? How was your weather up there last night?
We just had a little thunderstorm, nothing major. My heart went out to everybody last night, and we were watching all the videos. I just happened to come one day late from myself not being in that tornado, because we were down there on Monday in Portage, and we stayed just outside of Portage, and that's where we were going to eat, and going to Walmart and Home Depot and all that kind of stuff was right there in Portage. And we went past the FedEx place each day we were down there this past weekend, and the FedEx building is basically gone. So, and just absolute devastation down there. I feel so sorry for everyone down there.
Yeah, I do too. And not that it even matters, but this probably means all the supplies that I just ordered for necklaces probably won't be here. Minor situation. Obviously, it's small potatoes compared to what's going on, but we'll figure that situation out later this afternoon to kind of figure out what our plan is next. But what our plan is next now is talking about the Detroit Lions' recent acquisitions. And yesterday, some news came out. I mean, a bit of a twister with Brad Holmes here. A little play on what happened yesterday, and Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, and just kind of what the heck are they doing? Made me pause and question a little bit about who they are, what they've been saying, and bringing back players that have this history. We're going to try to unpack it just a little bit today, and see what makes sense of this. So, as everyone is aware, last year, or we should be aware, last year, CJ Moore, Quintez Cephas, Jameson Williams, and others in the NFL were suspended. Some indefinite ban, which was a minimum of 1 year. Some 6 games, like Jameson Williams, all for gambling. And a lot of it was due to not understanding the rules. But in the case of CJ Moore, it was egregious. He was betting on NFL games. He was suspended, released from the team, obviously. There was no plans that we had ever thought, even considered, that CJ Moore would end up back on this team. Brad Holmes speaks very fluently about culture and identity and the right guys on the team. Is CJ Moore a right guy? Did he make a huge mistake? Absolutely. Is he getting a second chance now through the Detroit Lions organization? He is. Does it mean he's going to make the roster? It doesn't. But let's talk a little bit about what this does for the Lions this season. So the Lions obviously need some safety help still. There's still one guy short, and CJ Moore kind of fits that role. He fits the role of someone that can play just about every position in the backfield, in the DB room. He can play safety, free safety, strong safety, cornerback, nickel. He can do it all. But he was a special teams ace. And now, with the way that special teams has changed, it makes sense that they're bringing him back. I can't say that I would, overly, agree with the fact that they're bringing him back, just based on what he did last year. To me, I would have never expected in a million years that Quintez Cephas or CJ Moore or any of those guys would have been brought back to the Detroit Lions. Maybe other teams, other teams that are willing to take that risk, but not the Lions. And according to Pride of Detroit here, they put a nice little report out, and we'll go through some of it. So Moore obviously was signed with the Lions going undrafted in 2019. He showed a lot of promise on special teams, earned a spot on the 53-man roster. He stayed with the Lions through 2022, and then he was released with an injury settlement as the Lions needed a roster spot. Once he was healthy, Moore briefly joined the Houston Texans practice squad, and then the Lions swooped in and kind of sniped him off their practice squad in 2022. And he played so well in 22 that he was then extended with a nice 2-year deal, like $3 million in guarantees. I think it was a $4.5 million deal last year that was announced, and then not even a month later, he was suspended. So I'm going to bring in a video. Anything you want to say about CJ Moore before I bring in a video here?
This might be a money move, because just like you said, he had just signed a new contract for $3 million. Now we get him on the cheap, and he was a special teams ace. And with the kickoff rule changing, why not bring him in for a flyer, see if it works? And we need safety help to boot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that the Lions are obviously trying to save a little bit of money, but he is someone that offered a lot in special teams. And the Lions are looking for players that are, versatile, if you will. He's very versatile in the DB room, as well as, what he can do on special teams. And if you guys remember, there was a few plays, gosh, I think it was 22, had to be 22. It was like a fake punt, 4th 8, 4th 9, something like that, that he got the ball and took it for a first down. I mean, it was a critical play. So he does offer versatility like that, where he's able to be utilized out of the backfield, even catching passes. He's been known to. So there's that component of this where he's a special teams ace. I mean, I don't know how many more times I could say it or how differently I could say it. That's his job. That's what he does. And you match him up with players like Jalen Reeves-Maybin and now Sion Vaki, players like that. That's what they do. They specialize in something. That's how they earn a spot on the roster. And that's what we're expecting for CJ Moore, is that, if he's going to make the roster at all here in 2024, it's because of his special teams play. I would not put him in the backfield as a number 3 safety. I just wouldn't. I would have Brian Branch before him. I would have Sion Vaki probably before him. But Vaki's a rookie. He's got a lot to learn. He's got, a lot in front of him to be able to, crack the starting roster, which probably won't happen this year. And again, he's another guy that the Lions brought in for his versatility: running back, wide receiver, safety, special teams ace, just like CJ Moore. So I think that his leadership, obviously, he made a big mistake last year, but his leadership within some of the, special teams, with the special teams, I think it's going to help this team overall. I don't feel confident about the character situation here. But again, Brad Holmes making that decision. If he feels that CJ Moore is beyond it, made his mistake, paid his dues, I mean, what are we going to say about it? They kept Jamison Williams. I mean, it's not like they were going to get rid of a first-round pick, but I guess you could say the same for him too. He got a second chance. I mean, why not CJ Moore? But let me bring in this video here, and let's see what CJ Moore had to say last year about his new contract.
Means the world, man. Words can't even really explain it. Just so thankful. This is my second home. I'm from Mississippi, but Detroit is my second home, and just so grateful and thankful for Miss Sheila, Brad, and Dan. For the opportunity just to be back and keep this thing going.
Contrast this to maybe how you felt last year, kind of a whirlwind, got the little Achilles strain in camp, and send you on a little bit of a journey before you get back here to, I guess, now the security you have once again.
Yeah, man, that's what makes this moment so much more special. With had to deal with an injury, I had to deal with a little business, and go get healthy. But for the guys to still believe in me and brought me back mid-season, we got things going the right way, and then to extend after the season just means the world. Just shows how much they believe in me, and I just want to go to work right now, and repay.
Obviously came in here as a young guy, as a rookie, and just got used to the flow. But you've been here long enough now. You're a leader. What is the process of, I guess, getting a new special teams group? Because there's so much turnover at that group. To get a new special teams group to gel quickly.
Yeah, we've always had a great group. We've always, ranked pretty high on if you want to look at the numbers. But just we got a standard here, and we do things a certain way, and we're gritty. We do it the right way. We're going to compete, and we're just going to hold the standard. Everybody's going to just get after it, and listen and take in what Phip has to say, and just go out there and turn it loose.
How fun is it to work under a head coach that really values that too, and isn't afraid to call a fake and be aggressive and use special teams as a weapon, not just a third part of the game.
Right, that means a lot. A lot of teams don't value ST the way Coach Dan does, and we're thankful for that. We're going out there every play to try to change the game. Whether it's kickoff, you're trying to get a fumble, whether it's punt, we're trying to throw it or run it, sweet. So we're super thankful for Coach Dan and how much he believes in and values special teams.
Didn't mention it there. How many more fakes you got in the bag?
Man, we keep them in the bag. We keep them in the bag. Sure, there'll be more, so we're excited.
We're going to maybe get to see your arm at some point?
Hey, it's coming. It's coming.
What's it mean the way that you've seen the expectations change around here? Because obviously now people think of this team much differently than they have in the past.
It means a lot. I really love finally people are starting to give us some respect. We've been playing hard, but just to see it come all together, it's different. It's different. And the expectations are high. And like I said, there's a standard, just the way we finished off last season. Guys, new guys have to come in and compete, and everybody's excited on where this thing is going.
Ties in with that, but when you see some of the moves that you guys have made in free agency, not just for retaining some of the key players, but adding big names and important players, what does that do for a player? What does that do for an organization?
It's great. It's going to bring in competition, great competition. Everybody's play is going to go higher. The level of expectations are even higher. So it's exciting. It's going to be scary out here in Detroit. It's going to be a great time.
Maybe we're in the target as a team to beat in the NFC North this year?
I definitely think so. We're just going to make sure we do our part and be ready for whatever comes our way.
Last year you spent a little time in Houston. I know you visited the Patriots during this free agency. What keeps bringing you back to Detroit?
Man, I just feel like myself and the culture that Coach Dan and Brad and Ms. Sheila are building here, it just fits so perfectly. And, it's gritty. It's not for everybody. Everybody can't come to Detroit, and you just got to be ready for something like that. So I think that's who I am, and that's what we're building, something special here.
Just to have the Patriots look at you, I think we know.
So I wanted to bring some of that in because that's exactly why he's coming back. Okay. It doesn't matter what I think, what I say. The reason why CJ Moore is coming back is because he really fit this team's identity. He understands the culture. He understands the city. He understands, what Dan Campbell wants to do and Dave Phipp and their plan going forward. It was probably at this point, though, during this conference that he already knew he was probably in some trouble. But be that as it may, he's getting a second chance. I did love CJ Moore when he was on the Detroit Lions. I loved what he did for this team. I'm a little miffed right now at, Brad Holmes making this decision, but it is what it is. I'm going to expect the best out of CJ Moore going forward. He brings a lot to the table. He is someone that is going to be an excellent mentor from a football standpoint to a player like Sion Vaki, who him and CJ Moore are very similar. Like CJ Moore can run the ball, throw the ball. He works in special teams. He can play defense. And just like he said, you've got these special plays that you keep in the bag. So there's a lot that we haven't seen yet. We've seen a ton, but we haven't seen it all. So bringing CJ Moore back, I think it's going to be exciting for special teams. I think that's where this guy is going to fit in right away. I think he's going to elevate that room and really help us this season. If he can crack the roster, I mean, he's going to have to beat out Vaki, to be honest with you. And even though we have an extra spot right now, that spot is not claimed by anybody. This is going to be a roster that is going to continue to evolve throughout the summer. So after watching that video, Eric, what do you think about CJ Moore coming back?
Seems like he's a good-hearted kid, and that's probably why Brad brought him back, is because he's, a good person, made a mistake, did the crime, paid his time. He didn't play at all last season. So, now you're getting him on the cheap, like I said, and you're getting a player that like you always say, Brad likes players that he knows.
Mm-hmm.
He likes to have players that have either played for him or he's dealt with at some point. And he's dealt with CJ Moore quite a bit. And I think he'll be a perfect fit for the culture. So I don't think you'll have to worry about him gambling or any of that stuff anymore. It's just, can he crack the roster? That's a big unknown right now.
Well, the Lions just added 21 rookies to the roster, so he's going to have a big challenge in front of him. Those guys are hungry. They want to earn a spot, and we'll see, just how good a shape CJ Moore has stayed in. Maybe he was expecting to get, a second chance. Obviously, we don't know, what the conversations have been like with CJ Moore over the last year. There may have been some conversations, that, hey, we're going to try to give you a second shot, stay in shape. But we'll see what happens. We'll be following him in training camp and throughout OTAs. So I guess welcome back to the team, CJ. Put the best foot forward, man. Put the nose to the grindstone. Hopefully you pick up where you left off and do some amazing things on the field again this season in special teams. So second guy, again, Brad Holmes is following a path this year that I think is a little bit different. And this is going to be part of tonight's podcast, but I want to briefly touch on it. So Kyle Peko was added to the team yesterday as well as a pair of signings between CJ Moore and Kyle Peko. And Peko's interesting. He's kind of bounced around a little bit in the league. He has 42 games underneath his belt, of which I think he's only played in maybe 13 of them or started 13 of them, but he's been involved in 42 games since 2016. Does not light up the stat sheet at all. He is not a pass rushing defensive tackle by any means. But he is, a little bit like Mekhi Wingo size, like 6'1", 305 pounds. I think Mekhi Wingo's like right around 6'6'1", 285, 290, somewhere in that range. So very similar body style. The difference is Mekhi is more of the pass rushing defensive tackle, whereas Peko is someone that is a little bit better against the run. And had a little bit of time last night, obviously, to review some things about Peko, and he's an interesting pickup. And I'm going to get into what I'm considering Brad Holmes is doing this year that is different from last season in the way that he's followed this path in the offseason, straight through the draft, and even after the draft. He's doing the same thing, which is different. I'll touch on it in just a minute. I'm not going to leave you hanging too long. But Kyle Peko, former UDFA signing by the Denver Broncos. Like I said, he bounced around a little bit entering the NFL in 2016. He is also the younger cousin of defensive tackle Domata Peko, who played 12 seasons in the NFL for the Cincinnati Bengals and the Denver Broncos. So he has a bloodline in the NFL. Took a little bit of an interest into his film yesterday. He could possibly bring the Lions a little bit of a breath of fresh air on the defensive line. His RAS score was a 7.69. So again, it's not crazy good. But a score is a score. What you do on the field is what you do on the field. But from the first clip that I watched of Peko, his play of the year really showcased his best two traits in one play. He quickly explodes out of his stance and gets a good push on a right guard. And I don't have the video queued up today, but after getting initial penetration, he turned and chased the running back on a sweep play. He finished that play, catching the running back in pursuit, lunging to make the tackle for a short gain. I really liked his energy. I liked his compact physical style. I think that it's going to be an interesting watch to see where he develops. Is he going to push Levi? Is he going to push, Broderick? Who's he going to push this year? He's bringing experience to the table. He's bringing depth to the table. Do I think that he's on the outside looking in? I think he's on the far outside looking in at potentially cracking this roster. More importantly, I think he's a practice squad guy if he doesn't get picked up by another team. That's right now. We'll see what happens during training camp. Injuries can change things quickly on this team. I think that, like I said, Peko offers something a little bit different than some of the other guys do. I do like his effort plays, though. He really does show up, on film with his speed. As big as he is, he's much quicker on the field than what his numbers do show. What do you think about the pickup here? And do you have any idea what I'm talking about with this path that I believe that Brad Holmes is following?
Oh, yeah. The path is dealing with guys that he's dealt with in the past, either through draft evaluations, like meetings, top 30 visits, all the way through to, having dealt with him with his former team and that kind of stuff. But I think maybe this is because of the new defensive line coach that we brought from Tennessee, from the Titans, and Peko started the last 10 games for the Titans. Mm-hmm. So you have someone that's very familiar with his system, how he likes to run the defensive line. So you have someone that can come in and help, be a player coach kind of deal. And like these guys are saying in the comments, nothing but a camp body. I think he's a little bit more than just a camp body. He's someone that will know how this new coach likes to do things. And I think that's why they're bringing him in, because the coach knows him, not necessarily because Brad knows him.
Yeah, so I don't know if Brad Holmes has ever met with Kyle Peko. I have a long list of all the guys that Brad Holmes has met with over the last 10 years. And I have not referred to it yet to see if Peko's on that list. As far as being a camp body, I'd have to probably disagree initially and say I think that's exactly what he is right now, because he's got a very long shot to make a roster that we're carrying 12 defensive linemen already. Him being, I think, number 13 or 14 now. He's got a tough road ahead of him to try to crack the roster. But you're right on, spot on one thing here that remains true, and it's part of the path, is they want guys that they know. So, the new defensive line coach knows this guy. He knows what he's all about. He knows everything he is and everything he isn't. So bringing him in to, help show the guys what, exactly we're trying to get out of the defensive line, and any new schemes that they're trying to implement, this season on the defensive line. Peko's going to be helpful, very helpful. Player coach, like you mentioned. I think that's a good way to put it. I do think that, being a camp body for right now is probably his number one asset as a player coach, being helpful, trying to lead this group into any new schemes that, what's his name again? Is it Williams? Our defensive line coach? I think it's Williams. But then, if he puts good work in, he still has an opportunity. Like I said, I think his outside chance is really practice squad, but he could surprise us. I mean, it happens every year that people do, these players do, make leaps and bounds over where they've been. Sometimes, a fresh situation, a new lease on life, so to speak, is kind of what they need. And players seem to respond to that. So we'll see what happens with Kyle Peko. But I want to talk about the path that I see Brad Holmes is following right now. And before I do, let me welcome everybody into the chat. Haven't had a minute to do that yet. So we got Lions fan 76, Zachary Cleary, mile marker 301, Bobby Tarantino, Tracy's in the house today. Is that still you? We've got James in the house, Mike P, John Knight, and of course we got Uper Lights in there. So good morning, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well today. Hope you guys all stayed safe, from yesterday's crazy tornadic events in Michigan. or Indiana, Ohio, wherever you may be. So this path that I see, I think it's different than what Brad Holmes has done in the past. So last year, Eric, you remember the Lions went hard on defensive backs, right?
Yep.
They brought in CJ Gardner Johnson. They brought in Emmanuel Mosley, Cam Sutton. It didn't draft anybody. All right. So we brought in 3 high profile free agents, one of which was recovering from an ACL, and the other 2 were supposed to hit the field right away. It didn't quite work out. And it didn't work out because Emmanuel Mosley got injured again. CJ Gardner got injured by the game, game 2. And Cam Sutton really just turned out to be a turd nugget. So it just didn't work out. The difference of what I see this year with Brad Holmes is not only has he gone out and drafted cornerbacks and defensive tackles, he's now brought them in free agency. So I think what he's doing here is he said, you know what? I'm going to have a backup for my backup for my backup. I'm not going to let what happened last year ever happen again on this roster. I'm not going to bring guys in and then fail the team because I didn't back them up. I'm going to have so much competition in these rooms that we are going to get the best out of everybody. Everyone's job is always on the line every year. We know that. Doesn't matter who you are, where you were selected, when you were selected, how you were selected. Your job is on the line every single summer. So he went out and brought in Terrion Arnold, Ennis Rakestraw, Sion Vaki. He's doubled down by bringing in, who else did he bring in? He brought back Emmanuel Mosley. I don't have the list in front of me. One second here. So anyway, he drafted those guys. He also brought in Amik Robertson, Carlton Davis, and brought back Emmanuel Mosley. So he drafts, drafts 3, brings in 3. And there may be more than that now. I don't have all of the UDFAs in front of me, but he's doubling down. So he's having a backup for his backup. He wants to ensure that if somebody gets injured, well, he's got someone that can replace him right away. Instead of running thin at a position, he's running heavy. Defensive tackles. Look, Josh Paschal hasn't quite worked out yet. Maybe he's a slow developer. Maybe this will be his season. Levi Onwuzurike hasn't really worked out yet. Maybe this is his season. Maybe he'll finally get healthy this year and stay on the field. But he's not screwing around. He went out and brought in DJ Reader, which was a huge impact player to bring in this offseason. And now he's backed that up with Makai Wingo, Kyle Peko, and other defensive tackles that have now joined this roster. What do you think? Why do you think he's doing that? I mean, just based on what I said there, why do you think this is important for the development and what Brad Holmes is, in my opinion, his management style on this team? I feel like this is a bigger development for him. I think his what people are calling his ego. I think he's kind of checked it here for a minute and said, look, I'm not always going to hit on these guys. They might be great players, but I have to have a backup plan for my backup plan because last year it blew up in my face.
Yep. And you have to remember, he's a first-time GM, just like Campbell's a first coach. Campbell had to learn on the job. He did a couple things, made some mistakes, and said, I'll never do that again. I'll trust my team next time instead of trying to kick the field goal, or I'll trust my team and trust my kicker instead of trying to go for it on 4th down. He's making the right decisions going forward. And I think Brad Holmes got caught with his pants down last year. He really thought those 3 guys we brought in were going to be the answer.
Right.
And they were not. 3 out of 3, we struck out on all 3 of them, either due to injury or due to just horrible play. And I think part of his was due to injury also. But his head just wasn't in the right place. And we didn't know it at the time, and now all 3 of them basically are not on the team anymore, except for Mosley. He's coming back, but a very, very minimum deal. And who knows if Mosley will even crack the roster. He may not even make it out of camp.
That's very true. So what I'm speaking to here is just the defensive side of the ball right now. And when you look at what Brad Holmes has just done. You bring in Marcus Davenport, defensive end. You already had John Kaminsky. You brought in Matthew Betts, who is a gamble, right? I mean, you just don't know yet, but they put him through the ringer of testing, hoping that, what they saw on film and what they saw in person is going to translate to the NFL. It's going to be a tough transition, but I think that the skill set is there. And then you bring in a guy like Isaac Ukwu to back them up. So you got 4 guys on the right side of the defensive end right now. Nose tackle, you had Broderick Martin last year. You reached a little bit to bring in a development player. I still don't know why Tyson Alualu is still showing up on the depth chart.
He's not on the team anymore, is he?
No, he shouldn't be. But for whatever reason, our lad still has him on the depth chart. I don't know why. So I'm going to skip over him. So you got DJ Reader, Broderick Martin, and now Kyle Peko as your, what they consider the heavier defensive tackles. And then you're more of your pass rushing defensive tackles, Aleem McNeil, Levi Onwuzurike. Mekhi Wingo truly is more of a pass rushing defensive tackle, and Chris Smith. So he brought in Mekhi Wingo, brought in Isaac Ukwu, brought in Kyle Peko, brought in DJ Reader, Marcus Davenport, Matthew Betts. And then on the other side of the ball, he brought in this guy, Nate Lynn. Mitchell Agudi, I think he was already on the practice squad last year. So I think they just brought him back on a futures, if memory serves me correct. So they've gone out and attached guys behind guys. They filled every single spot on the defensive side of the ball with a free agent, a draft pick, or a late free agent, or a UDFA. Linebacker, they brought in Deron Gilbert. They brought in Steel Chambers, who I absolutely love. I think that kid has a great opportunity to crack this roster. And they brought in Jalen Garnes for strong safety, Lauren Strickland at free safety, Morris Norris Jr. at nickelback, Ennis Rakestraw, of course, Terrian Arnold, Amik Robertson. So they've really transformed this entire defense, not only with backups, but good, solid competition. And again, I'm going to say it one more time. I think the Brad Holmes plan this year was to not only select the guys that they needed to make a difference, but to back them up so he doesn't have the same situation as he did last year, running pretty thin. So interesting turn of events for Brad Holmes. I feel like this is a great development in his management style. And what he's proving to us is being prepared and making sure that this team has what it needs to succeed, and setting it up for success is something that he preaches, and he's finally doing it this year, in my opinion, a little bit differently than he has in the past. So what else is on the docket this morning? Anything on your side over there that you want to discuss today?
Sure. I'm going to try to protect some of our viewers from scams. So I got a little something to show you guys. So, Fanatics had the new black jerseys right away. And I happened to be scrolling on Facebook. And I have bought quite a few jerseys from over in China and had really, really good success buying them from the cheaper companies over there. So I saw this Fanatics shop ad on Facebook and thought it looked pretty legit. So I figured I'll give it a chance. But usually I order from a company called Yes Jersey, and you can put that jersey and one you buy at the stadium right next to each other, and you can't tell the difference. All completely stitched, all perfect, right? Well, I ordered a custom number 86 with Uperlite on the back of the new black jersey. And I got it from this fanatic.com. I think it was missing the S for Fanatics, but looked just like the Fanatics ad and looked just like their website. I knew it was from China. As soon as I paid, it came through in Chinese letters. And I'm going to show you guys what this thing looks like. So it is completely all printed. The entire thing is printed. It looks kind of nice on camera, but you can see on the back of it says Motor City instead of on the inside where it's supposed to be. And it's all printed. It's not sublimated. It doesn't have the plastic on the outside. So this is actually, the fabric is printed like this. And then when you flip it over on the sleeves, it says 86. On the back, it says 86. And check out the front. 72. Why would they put 72 on the front of my jersey? And I wear an extra large now. I mean, I've lost, a bunch of weight. I went from 295. I'm down to 226 right now. So I've lost about 70 pounds. And I'm down from a 3X all the way down to a 1X. This fits like a medium.
Jeez.
I look like a stuffed sausage when I put this thing on.
Just so we're clear here, we're not promoting buying things from China.
No, I'm trying to tell you, don't click on those ads on Facebook. They're junk.
Yeah, make sure we support our American-made products as much as possible.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, dude.
Yeah.
The Yes jersey. So the Yes jersey place that you've gone through. Obviously, you buy those so that you have, extra things, to wear, unique things to wear. They offer a lot of unique stuff, a lot of sweatshirts and things of that nature. Obviously, if you want a really good jersey, buy from NFL Shop or Fanatics.com or even at the stadium. Pro Sports Zone in Livonia is a great place to visit. Rally House, another great place to visit. So try to stay away from those ads that you see that try to look like Fanatics. Matter of fact, you're not the only one. So there was another viewer that had sent me a text message to say, hey, is this where you got, your jerseys from? And immediately when I saw the name, I'm like, that's a fake name. Like that's a fake Fanatics. Don't buy anything from there. There's no way a jersey is $39. I've even seen them on Walmart. So Walmart has third-party sellers. And when these jerseys came out, I'm like, $49. Like that's not, there's no way. It's got to be a t-shirt or something, right? Nope. It was a jersey. And so I called Walmart and I said, do you understand that you guys are allowing someone to sell NFL gear, which is supposed to be legit NFL gear on your website? I'm like, that's a big problem. Don't you think that's a big problem? It's fake. And they're like, well, they have to go through a rigorous process. Well, clearly they didn't because what they're selling is junk. So I've even seen it on Walmart. So be careful, obviously the places that you visit. So what's your recourse on that jersey? You going to try to send it back?
No, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hang it back here somewhere. I'll just hang it with the 86 side and, oh man, it's doing it again. But hang it with the 86 side and the Uper lights, and I'll just hang it on the wall or something. You've got a misprint, so it's worth money now, right? Got a misprint. And it's a t-shirt. It's not a jersey. It's just a t-shirt,
right.
It's the nylon fabric t-shirt. And listen, it looks good on camera. It doesn't look good in person. And I look like a stuffed sausage when I put it on. So I my goal is to get down to 200 or 199 actually. And
I would love to get
down
back
to
there.
199. I still don't think I would fit in this jersey. So I just buyer beware. You're taking a risk anytime you click on one of those ads on Facebook.
So our next subject this morning, and just so everybody knows, I'm probably going to fly right around 9:30 this morning at the latest because I've got a doctor appointment. But and then we got to figure out what's going on in Kalamazoo and see how we can help. Let's talk about the schedule. So last year, I got some information early about the schedule, and I said that we were going to have five primetime games, and we did. We had more than that. Than what ended up being 6, I believe, last year. So this year, the schedule was supposed to come out this week, and apparently it's now pushed back a little bit. Teams are going to get the schedule, I believe, on the 12th. So there will be some leaks. I guarantee it. There will be some leaks this weekend. We'll hopefully get some information about the schedule. Not that it's a big deal, but I think that people want to know. They're excited. They want to know what's going on. But let's just briefly talk about the schedule and what I do know or what I do feel. So we have home games, obviously against Chicago, Green Bay, Minnesota. No surprise. Rams coming back. Seahawks again. Jacksonville. Tennessee Titans. Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Buffalo Bills all at home. Away games, obviously Bears, Packers, Vikings. Cardinals, Texans, Colts, 49ers, Cowboys. Pretty tough away schedule. Detroit went 4-2 last season in its primetime games. We know that the Lions will for sure have the Thanksgiving Day game this year. But beyond that, the Lions could be featured in a number of, and I'll give you what my number is here in a minute, of televised games throughout the sea, of nationally televised games, primetime games throughout this season again. But the question is, are the Lions going international? It's been almost a decade now since the Detroit Lions have played outside the United States. The Lions last played the Kansas City Chiefs in London back in 2015. That's the third longest active streak right now without an international game in the NFL. Behind Pittsburgh and the Cowboys, both 2013, 2014, the Lions 2015 have not played in an international game since. So that's likely to continue this year in 2025. And for reasons that I'll explain, the league has so far announced that the Eagles and the Packers will play in Brazil, while the Jaguars and the Vikings and the Bears will all host games in England. The Carolina Panthers will also host this season's Germany game. So the Lions host the Jaguars this year, and then we don't play the Panthers, so we can X that off the schedule, right? There's no opportunity for us there. The NFL hasn't scheduled a divisional matchup overseas since the Panthers last played the Bucs in London in 2019. While it's entirely possible that the league could buck that trend this year, seems pretty improbable to me. So I'm going to bet that the Lions are not playing internationally this year. If they do, it would be a big surprise. I mean, I would welcome it. I would love to say that I would go, but I just don't see it happening this year. The Lions have a pretty incredible strength of schedule this year. And due to the first place finish last year, the Lions have one of the tougher schedules in the league in 2024. Based on the projected win totals from Vegas odds makers and sharp football analysis, rank the Lions as having the 12th toughest schedule in the league this year. The Lions' schedule of opponents has the 11th best winning percentage at .509, so just above 500. And Detroit will play 11 games against teams that finished above 500 in 2023, while also playing in 8 of those games against teams that made the playoffs last season. Exactly like what happened in 2022. The Lions went up against 7 teams, 8 games from the 2022 playoff season, which the Vikings obviously, I think we played them twice, and that was the 8th game. So what do we think about this year's schedule, and where do the primetime games fit? I would say that the Lions are probably going to be featured in 2 away games that'll be primetime. And if I had to make an educated guess right now, I don't see how you can keep the Dallas Cowboys out of the question here. With as much that happened last year, I don't see how you could keep the Dallas Cowboys out of the question for a primetime game with the Lions away. And I also think the other one is San Francisco. Now, I don't know exactly where these games are going to line up. I haven't looked or compared it to, the first week. Is there potential there for them to play in the first week or two and where do primetime games fit? But I would say if there's an opportunity for the Lions to play in an away game, I think that San Francisco and Dallas make the most sense for an away primetime game. I also think the Texans make the most sense because they're a team on the rise. Playing the Bears, the Packers, the Vikings away. Now, I can't remember. Was the first game that we played in Lambeau week 4 last year was primetime, right? I believe.
Yeah. Yep. At Lambeau was on a Thursday.
Yep. So I don't see us having another primetime game in Lambeau. I feel like they're going to want to flip-flop that a little bit. So I think the potential there for the Lions to have a home game against the Packers this year be in primetime. I think they'll flip-flop it, like a Sunday night game or something like that. And then, of course, the Los Angeles Rams. I mean, how can you not consider that to be another primetime option? So at the end of the day, look, I see the Lions potentially having another 5 primetime games this year, plus Thanksgiving. Or if they want to include, you say 6,
Mm-hmm.
and not including Thanksgiving.
Nope.
So that'd be
Be it
7
one more than
nationally
last
televised games.
Yep.
Man, that would be nuts.
Lions are
But
the
you know
hot
what? Last year, I think it helped the Lions not just playing at that 1 p.m. slot all day or all season, and being able to have those additional layovers, between games, those 10 day, layoffs between games. I think that helped the Lions rest up a little bit and get more prepared. Dare I say the NFL does that again this year. That would be great for us. I think that the Lions would benefit highly from that situation. Now, the reason why the NFL has pushed back the schedule release, which again was supposed to be out this week, is because of these Christmas games. They're trying to get these Christmas games rescheduled or scheduled because they start on a Wednesday, and they're having issues with it. Well, they probably should have thought about that before they decided to jam that week up with games. As much as the NFL does right, I feel like the one thing they always get wrong is the schedule. Someone always gets screwed, if not multiple teams, but it's usually the Lions getting screwed with 4-day, layoffs between games. So good morning. Go ahead.
How can they schedule Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday that week?
I don't. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
6 days in a row of football every day.
That's where I thought maybe for once the NFL would wake up and say, we need a second mandatory bye week where every team is off. And if you were to do that after the Christmas holiday, you would reset the schedule for the playoff push into January, and everyone would be rested a little bit, maybe get a couple players back. So maybe they do. Maybe they, I don't know if they can. I think that they're kind of locked in right now with the collective bargaining agreement and what they're allowed to do. Good morning, King SJ. How you doing today?
Did you hear Roger Goodell at the draft, though, saying that he wants the Super Bowl on the following week, with it being on President's Day, being Monday, the day after the Super Bowl? So that way the whole country gets the day off and has a day of rest after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think that's a smart business move. I mean, one, it gives everybody, and like you said, an opportunity to watch it and not have to worry about the next day, because it's usually a pretty late game. I don't understand why the Super Bowl's kind of always been towards the evening. I guess it depends on where you live, as to what time the game is being played. But it just never made sense to me why it was always in the evening. But maybe they back it up a little bit. Maybe they do it more midday, like 4 or 5 p.m.
But it's always at a weird start time. It's at like kickoff Eastern is 6:20 p.m. or something.
Something like
there's
that.
no games that are that all year long.
Yeah.
It's the only game the whole season that kicks off at 6:30, whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, they get 2 weeks, they get 2 weeks to get ready, for it. But so to recap kind of what we talked about this morning, and Hope Springs Eternal says, yeah, except when you get 3 games in 10 days. Yeah, that was nuts. I don't think we were the only team that had that happen. I think the Packers were also another team that kind of had to go through that gauntlet a little bit. So it still didn't help us. I mean, we had a lot of breaks last year, but it still didn't help us. It didn't help anybody. So I guess to recap this morning, we spoke about CJ Moore. Look, great football player when it comes to special teams. Someone that's going to help this team out this season. 1, to get prepared. 2, to help the younger guys. 3, to add some depth. I think he's got an outside chance looking in to make this team. If he does, it's purely special teams. Kyle Peko, same thing. I think it's an outside looking in kind of chance for him as well. He does pique my interest with his skill set. I just don't think that he's been given the right opportunity with the teams that he's been, with so far. Maybe that changes with the Lions. Maybe the Lions find, that he can bring more to the table. At the end of the day, I think he's going to be another great addition for the practice squad. Someone that you would love to be able to stash there in case we do suffer some injuries throughout the season. What did Brad Holmes kind of change in 2024 versus 2023? I think we're seeing it. He's gone heavy on corner and defensive tackle, not only in free agency, but then the draft and then UDFA and post draft, free agency. He's addressed that position, both those positions, multiple times. He's putting backups in for backups. He's created an incredible opportunity this summer for competition. And I do believe that if this is a kind of a change to his management style after what happened last year and trying to address the DB room kind of blowing up in his face, I welcome it. I think that if he does the same thing next year with two different positions, I mean, this team's going to get great in a hurry. We're already great, but we need to stay there, right? We have to stay relevant. And it's pretty difficult to stay relevant in the NFL unless your management style can also stay relevant and change with the times. Schedule, look, I see the Lions are probably going to be in 5 primetime games this year. I think we could have 2 home, 3 away, just because of the way that, these games kind of line up. I see more away than I do home. We do have 9 home games, though, this year, so maybe we do have more home than away. We'll see. Anything else on the schedule this morning? So we went over buyer beware information there with the fake fanatic sites. What else you got for us?
So for the schedule, my big thing, I got it circled on the calendar, right? Ready to go. San Francisco. It's our revenge game. We need to beat San Francisco. Penei Sewell said he's rewatched that playoff game 10 times. Well, so have I. I talked to you before and you guys were like, man, I can't bring myself to watch it. I've rewatched it at least 10 times. We had it. We had it in the bag. We had them. And what failed us? Our secondary failed us. Fumbles failed us. Just, drop passes. One play here, one play there. We win that game. And I think that Penei Sewell and the other players that were on the team last year are going to be on a mission to beat San Fran in San Fran in prime time. It'll be a Monday night game. It'll be a Sunday night game. It's going to be all by itself. All the eyes of the whole country are going to be watching. That's the one game I got circled on my calendar, and that's the one I want to go to. And the other one I want to go to is probably the Colts, just because I would love to go experience a game there, because we went and saw the NFL Combine there, and I really liked that stadium. I thought it was really neat. Very old. Yeah, it's old, but it was laid out nice. And when I got to go up into like the 500 sections way up in top, it was a very neat view of the field. There wasn't a bad seat in the house. It's
probably almost feel like you're going to fall over because it's so straight up,
so vertical. But just like Ford Field, there's not a bad seat in the house, and it's a little dated and antiquated, but I really liked their fans, and I want to go check it out and see what it's all about. So, and that one's not too far. That's driving distance, 9-10 hours. So I can do that one pretty easy. And if I fly down there, they have a nice airport and everything.
So just like I spoke about a couple of months ago, we're waiting for this schedule to come out for a few things that we want to do as a collective here. Is I want to organize the bus trips. So it's something that I brought to the table a couple of months ago, and I would like to organize some away game bus trips. So whether we hit the local games, the Chicago, the Colts, maybe one long one to Texas, that would be a multi-day event, obviously. But having the benefit of a driver that, can switch off and, do it in 2 increments. I think they can drive 12 hours and then they'll switch with someone and continue to drive. We can make it in 24 hours. So it's, 24 hours there, 24 hours back. It's probably a 4-day trip at a minimum, I would think. So I'm considering working that out with a local bus company, get a bank of tickets, and we'll just have to see how much the bus costs and then how much, bank of tickets would cost at some of these events, and put a package together. If you guys are interested in that, Nasty Man, I have no idea what he's up to. Not a clue. The bus thing was always my deal. So that's, and the what's it called? We were going to try to do a cruise this year, depending on if we can make it all happen. But The bus thing is something that I've always wanted to do and something that I'm planning on doing. We'll put a few games together. We'll put the packages together. So I don't know if he's doing something on his own. I have no idea, but it's something that we'll do here with Rock Down Detroit Lions, and we'll put a package together and make it happen. If there's specific games that we could target, I think they're the local ones. I think Chicago, I think Green Bay, I think Minnesota. LA is pretty far. Seattle obviously is at home. Oh, I'm sorry. Those are away games or home games. So you got the Bears, the Packers, the Vikings. Arizona's pretty far. You got the Indianapolis Colts. So those 4 games, they're probably within 8 hours of, let's just say, Lansing. Probably within 8 hours of Lansing. San Fran pretty far away, but I think a trip to Texas is pretty far away too. But I mean, it could be fun. Getting to one of those games as a group could be an interesting trip. So we'll put it together, and as soon as the schedule drops, I'll be on the phone putting the packages together. And then, if you guys want to do it, you have to get deposits in right away. So I'll probably put something on Buy Me a Coffee. That way, you could actually purchase something and have a receipt. So, what else is on your mind today, Eric?
Not too much. Can't wait for the schedule. I'm really looking forward to seeing when and where we're playing and seeing if that lines up against my tour schedule. Because I do Tuesdays and Thursdays, July through October. And last year it screwed me because we had the 2 Thursday games, and I was doing Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday last year. So I had to unfortunately be on the beach during Detroit Lions games. So this year I've scheduled stuff a little bit differently, and hopefully early in the season we don't get any Thursday night games.
I'd say hopefully we don't get Thursday night games.
Yeah, hopefully not.
Oh, I'm sure
I won't.
I'm sure we will. Some of those. I mean, obviously Thanksgiving, but I think some of those primetime games are going to have to be on a Thursday. Those help us. When you play on a Thursday, you kind of get those 10 days off, so they kind of help us.
Yeah. Oh, I will say this: if anyone gets a chance to go to, what is it called, TC Bank Stadium in Minnesota, the Minneapolis Stadium, it is world class. It is so good. Sit in one of the sections behind the Lions bench, and if you do get nice seats down by the Lions bench, you get your own section when you come up to the top of the stairs. That is all food for you, all drinks for you, all bathrooms for you. They give you a bracelet, so they know you're in that section, and it's awesome. There's no waiting in line for anything. It's just right there, super fast. And you can buy a package where everything's included, and that's what I did when I went. So all my food, I just go up and tell them I want a brat, and they just hand me one, and off I go. It was so super fast. And then they had drink machines, and you just take your cup and refill your cup a whole bunch of times. So I absolutely loved the game I went to there. I didn't like the results, but I liked the game I went to.
Yeah, maybe we'll look into that for the package in Minnesota. The all in. I think that's smart, for some of these stadiums, the way they do that. Obviously, when they built the stadium, they laid it out that way so that they could offer, a way to keep things kind of in one place, for that section. What section were you in? Do you remember?
Right behind the visitors bench. I was
at the visitors bench, not okay. So
on the Lions bench. And they also have a section like that behind the Vikings bench. So each side of the stadium has a dedicated section for the 100. I think it's like the 100 level. That when you go up to the top of the stairs, that's where your basically private bathroom, and the bathroom has like a billion stalls, and they were so nice and so fast. I was like, why can't Ford Field be like this? So I'm not waiting in line for 15 minutes just to go pee to get back to my seat. So that was one thing I really, really liked the Viking Stadium. They got that right. But it's brand new. It's all fancy. It looks like a Viking ship from the outside, all built out of glass. And I can't remember if the roof opens or not. I'm pretty sure it does. but the sunshine was coming in. It felt like an outdoor game, even though you were inside a dome. And it's
So
massive.
one other topic that I had this morning, we'll probably end with this, is did the Lions do it again? And what I mean by that is, did they snipe the Packers again this draft? And what I mean by that is, last year we know that we traded with the Packers and took Brian Branch. And clearly a lot of Packers fans were upset by that. Maybe the Packers felt that they were a little bit duped. We'll never know. But there's been some things that have been popping up. Like, would we love to see, the Packers war room when the Lions moved up to take Terry and Arnold? I don't know if any videos dropped yet.
No.
So I don't see that that video will ever come out, but I would really love to see it. I mean, if someone does eventually get their hands on it and leaks it, I think that would be incredible. But the Lions traded up this year again in the first round, moving up ahead of the Packers, and selected Terry and Arnold. And some have said, including Jeremy Fowler, that the Green Bay Packers were believed to have Arnold rated very highly on their board as their turn was coming up in the first round, that it might have been the player that they were going to select. Packers pretty decent cornerback room. I mean, I felt that, in my work leading up to the draft, that I felt that they still needed a corner for multiple reasons. They also needed a safety. So it is possible. It is very, very possible that the Lions did it again this year and sniped the Packers by taking arguably the best corner in this draft. Ahead of the Packers, reaching above of the Packers and trading with the Dallas Cowboys to be able to pull it off. So in your opinion, Eric, what do you feel about this? Do you think that the Lions intentionally did this? And the reason why I'm bringing this up too is because I've seen other works where people are saying, well, the Lions really wanted Darius Robinson. That makes zero sense to me. And the reason why is because Darius Robinson was selected after the Lions moved up. If they really wanted Darius Robinson, don't you think that they would have taken Darius Robinson at 24?
Yep.
Not Terry and Arnold? I'm not saying that they didn't have Darius Robinson high on their list or their board. I'm sure he was for many teams. But where do you go? 27? I think is where Darius Robinson went. So he would have been gone potentially before the Lions even picked at 29 anyway. They would have had to have moved up, but they moved up to 24. You had Darius Robinson, you had Chop Robinson, you had Terry and Arnold sitting there, and a bunch of other players that they could have taken, including other offensive linemen. But they took Terry and Arnold, not a defensive end, not Darius Robinson. So I don't know why some of that stuff was written. Why they would say they wanted Darius Robinson, blah, 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 because he should have been taken at 24 if that's what they wanted. So what do you think about the Lions moving up to 24 to take Arnold? Did they snipe the Packers again? Do you really think we did?
We didn't snipe them. Not once, not twice, but 3 times.
There
We
you go.
sniped the hell out of them. Anybody that follows me on Facebook knows I've been posting the crap out of this sniping the Packers thing. And it's funny because I just did a post about my most active followers. And guess who the top 3 or 4 are? All Packer fans, because they keep telling me that, oh, you didn't snipe nothing. You didn't snipe nothing. Oh, yes, we did. So we didn't just snipe them on Branch. And they were so pissed about that last year. We sniped Arnold. We took him right in front of them. I bet you neither team, the Detroit Lions or the Packers, never thought in a billion years that Arnold was going to fall that far. There was going to be somebody, but we didn't think it was going to be him. I thought for sure top 10, 8, 9, 10. That's where he was going. And the fact that the Lions moved up, got him right in front of the Packers. And then you see the Packers take that lineman and they show that guy that just goes, and all the Lions fans making fun of him. It was so funny.
Who was the guy? You talking one of the Packers personnel?
The Packer fans, yeah. He was in the front row, and they showed him on TV. And Milifanu actually sent that guy a gift of signed ball and a jersey and some other stuff for making fun of the Packer fan.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So it's pretty awesome. But yeah, I post all the time about the Lions sniped not just Branch, not just Arnold, but Rakestraw. Ennis Rakestraw, him as well. I think the Packers had him on their board and were willing to take him, and then the Lions took him, and he was gone.
Well, I think it was a smart move. I absolutely do. I think it was the right move. I think obviously it's, where I thought the Lions were going to be this year was going heavy on quarterback and defensive tackle. And that's what Brad Holmes has really laid the foundation on this year, is solidifying two positions. Last year, like I said, he tried to address the cornerback room. We grabbed the safety and Brian Branch, who plays nickel, obviously. He can play anywhere, but primarily safety and nickel are the two best positions for Branch right now. And the way that we keep leaping in front of the Packers, it almost feels intentional. Clearly we didn't, do anything at pick 61 with Rakestraw. I mean, he kind of fell to our lap, but it just seems like every year Brad Holmes wants to ensure he stays ahead of the NFC North as best as he can. That's like your first opponent is the NFC North and everything that's inside it. The Bears, the Packers, and the Vikings. Without winning the North, it's tough to do anything, outside of that for playoffs. That's your number one goal. Your number one objective is to win the North at all costs. Once you get in the tournament, as Dan Campbell likes to call it, I don't know why he calls it the tournament, but once you get in the playoffs, I mean, then all bets are off. It's a new season and you're starting from scratch. So it doesn't matter who you beat. Doesn't matter who you lost to. You just got to get in. Just like March Madness, you just need a chance to get in. And once you get in, you can show the world who you really are. The Lions did that in 2023. I expect that we're going to do it again here in 2024. Predictions. I think that we spoke about predictions before, but this year's no, I'm good, Wayne. I'm good. This year's prediction for you is as far as schedule. So after the season ended, I did a video or something. I said that the Lions, or I posted, I think on Twitter, that predicted a lot what was going to happen in that Super Bowl, and I said the Lions were going to go 14-3. That's what I saw happening. 14-3. I'm still sitting there. Now that I see that, the way that these games are really lining up, I'm still sitting there at 14-3. I think 13 wins is going to win the North and potentially get a first, the first number one seed. I think 13 wins can do it. We'll see. We'll see how the other schedules line up for everybody else. But I think in the NFC, it's going to be a minimum of 13 wins this year. And the Lions potentially could pull off 14 of them as long as we stay healthy. Where do you think the Lions end up this year? Honestly.
Pretty similar. I picked 13-4 right after the season, somewhere between there and 15-2. And tell me that the Detroit Lions don't want to be the number one seed. Imagine it. 2 potential home playoff games again. And Ford Field was so amazing. There's no team that wanted to come play in Ford Field. And I say, if you flip that San Francisco game and put it in Ford Field, we win that game.
Oh, 1,000%.
Yep.
So you're somewhere between 13-4 and 15-2. So what's the number?
So I would say right about the same, but I'm leaning more towards 15-2.
Wow. That's a big season. So, all right, let's look at the schedule. You got Chicago at home.
Yep.
Green Bay at home, Minnesota at home, LA at home. Those have to be wins.
Yes.
Seattle, we can't lose that game.
No.
Jacksonville.
we're done losing to Seattle. I think that whole Seattle dominating us for everything is over with.
Well, they got a new coach. Everything's changed in Seattle. The Rams, I mean, they're coming for us. And they learned a lot about us last year. That was a very tough playoff game. But they don't have Aaron Donald. So there's changes there, but they've really solidified their team. The Rams have really gone out in my opinion, might have had one of the better off seasons quietly in the league this year.
Yeah,
so
draft.
If we have a game at home that I feel is on the bubble for us, I think it's the Rams. The only other game that I think is on the bubble for us at home is the Tennessee Titans. I think that they could be one of those teams that surprises a few people this year. The Buffalo Bills, we usually play pretty well. We should have won the last game that we went up against. Was it 2 seasons ago? We should have won that game. I think it was it Thanksgiving? I think it was Thanksgiving. Was it a Thanksgiving Day game?
I don't remember.
But we barely lost that game. So the Buffalo Bills, I mean, so that would be the third team that, are bubble games at home. The Rams, the Titans, and the Bills. I think we'll handle Tampa Bay again, even though they're pretty tough squad. I think we'll handle the Jacksonville Jaguars again. Seattle, I think that their time running Detroit is over. Rams, tough game. Minnesota, I'm not confident, man. I don't care who their quarterback is. Pick one. I think that Minnesota is going to drop off for a couple of seasons, especially if they start JJ McCarthy at any point in time this season. I think that it's going to take them 2 to 3 seasons to get back. Green Bay Packers, they're going to be the toughest team, in my opinion, in the North versus the Lions. Chicago, again, if they're starting Caleb Williams, which they will be, I see them taking 2 to 3 seasons to get back. And by then, who knows where the Lions will be. So if I were to say, at home, at worst, at home, the Lions are going to be at worst 7-2.
Yep.
At worst. Now away. Again, I think we double up the Bears and the Vikings. I don't think that there's a chance that we lose those games right now. Arizona, like I said, is going to be the 2024 Texans of 23. That is going to be a tough game. We've got to beat the Packers away, but that's a bubble game to me. The Cardinals is a bubble game. And then obviously San Francisco is going to be a tough game, but I think
revenge.
I think the blood's boiling a little bit there. I think the Lions just completely mollywop the 49ers this year. I don't think it's going to be close.
The way we came out in the first half in the playoff game, that's nothing. Dan's going to put his foot on their throat, and he's going to keep the foot on the pedal. There's going to be no backing off on that team this year.
I don't think that Dan was the issue last year. I think that AG was the issue. I think that he was too aggressive in that game in the second half and not using the noodle. You know what I mean? Like, come on. All you got to do is keep 16 points, off the board here, or no more than 16 points on the board. That's all you had to do. Just don't, you can allow 16. You can't allow 17. Can't allow 18. It's all you had to do was prevent essentially 3 scores, or 2 scores and 2 points. That's all he had to prevent. And he couldn't even do that. So 49ers, I think we completely smoke them. Dallas Cowboys, I think the same thing. We're going to smoke them. Houston Texans, Arizona Cardinals, Packers are the 3 games that I'm worried about away. So I think that the worst we finish here away is going to be 6-2.
Yep.
I think that's the worst we finish. That puts us at 13-4.
Yep.
So I called 14-3 right after the Super Bowl. I think 13 wins will lock up, obviously, the North, potentially a first round or a first seed in the NFC. That's where I'm at. I think it's 13-4 or bust for the Lions this year. I mean, that's where we need to be. Now, I know some people will say that the Lions season would be a complete loss if we don't make the Super Bowl. I'm not going that far. I think that, things come in stages and phases. I think that this is the year that, I've called the Lions to win the Super Bowl was 24. I felt that we were half a season away. We needed that extra draft that Brad Holmes just, amazingly put together this year again. We needed that. We needed those players. The players that we haven't had on this team, we do have now. We didn't have the corners before. We never did. We didn't have the defensive tackle that we have now. Now we do. We've locked up a couple of guys now for the future. And we're in a great position. So I think that if we make the playoffs, we go deep in the playoffs, even if we go to the NFC title game again, as long as it's not against the San Francisco 49ers and we lose again, I think that it's a win. I think that it absolutely is a win. Of course, I want to see my team win a Super Bowl, but I'm not going to hang that over their head and say, that's it. I mean, we just came from the dumps in the NFL, where we've been for decades. And I get it. Like we're sick of waiting, right? We're all sick of waiting, but this team is completely rebuilt since 2021. Over 80, it's more than 90% now of roster change. And I'll have to recalculate this year, but it's more than 90% roster change, complete gut job. And to be able to do what we just did last year inside 3 seasons is absolutely incredible. If it was easy to do, the Browns would have done it by now, and a whole host of other teams would have done it by now, and they haven't. So we're on the right path. I think that the Lions have a great season ahead. 13-4 is the basement for me. I think that's where we have to be. I'm not saying that 12-5 can't get it done, but I really think that 13-4 is where the Lions need to, really consider making sure that happens, because that's the floor for this season to be a success, to give us the best opportunity at going deep in the playoffs. All right, anything you want to finish on today, Eric, and then we're gonna run for the day.
Yeah, there's a new standard, and it's winning playoff games. And Detroit knows how to win playoff games now. When I went to that first playoff game, it was, man, I hope we win. I hope we win. There's no hope anymore. Now I expect to win. I expect to make the playoffs. I expect to go to the NFC Championship game. I expect to go to the Super Bowl this year. So now it's expectations. It's no more hope for me. The hopium is gone. Now it is, I expect a certain level. And I think that's what the coaches and the GM and everyone else in the building, all the players, expect to win, because they're putting in the work and they're doing the right things. And now they're experienced. They've experienced it. Now they know what it's like to go to an NFC Championship game on the road. They know what it's like to lose in the NFC Championship game. Now they know what it's like to win in the first 2 rounds. They know what a home playoff game feels like. They want that feeling again. So they're going to do everything in their power to get back and get the number 1 seed. So 13-4 to 15-2, somewhere in there, it's going to happen.
So let me ask you that, just based on what you just said. So are you saying, you expect to go to the Super Bowl? So
Yep.
You think that not going to the Super Bowl this year means it's a losing season?
No, but expectations need to be higher. My expectations before were just to make a playoff, or just to have a home playoff game. That was my expectation last year. Last year, my expectation was, we need for this to be a good season, to be what I thought would be a positive season. We had to host a playoff game and win it in Ford Field, something we hadn't done since 1991.
Well,
And
there's something else that we haven't done ever.
Yep.
And now we can. We will continue. This is it right here. We get to hang some banners finally.
Yep.
And these are the only banners that we want to see in Detroit. It's NFC North champions. We finally did it. Got that monkey off our back. It's time to keep stacking. Look, I think that you're spot on too, Eric. I mean, the coaches expect, right? I mean, Brad Holmes expects. I mean, they thought that they were a Super Bowl team last year. and they were. They felt that they should have made the playoffs and beyond in their second season of rebuild, and they should have. They got screwed in that damn Seattle game before the Lions played the Packers. But we also got screwed earlier in the season, and that's the one thing that I do want to get rid of. Like, I really, if there's one thing that could help my heart rate, right, and my stress level and the blood pressure, is I need to get rid of the refs did this, the refs did that. You know what I mean? When can we just finally shake it? Look, I don't think there's any denying some of the things that have happened in the past. But now I want to get rid of that as an excuse. Like, we're better than that. We are now. So the way that, I've always said, you win games, you put up points, right? To keep the refs out of the game. You prevent points on the board. The refs can't get in the game. So that's how you win. You just have to keep the refs out. You got to put up points. You got to keep points off the board. And then we don't have to worry about what the refs do. It would have to be extremely egregious. In everyone would see what's going on. In tight games, it's a little different. But in games that are blowouts, games that are solved by more than, won by more than 10 points, it's a little more difficult for refs to kind of interfere, I think that we'll see you, Tracy. Have a good day. I think that, is that still you says expectations? Always wanted to live there. I think our expectations are there. Every year we expect the best now. And I think that only happens with Brad Holmes sticking around, with Dan Campbell sticking around. I don't know how much of my old stuff, some of these, viewers have seen, but one of the things that I always said last year, early, right around this time of the year, was the Lions have to quit changing coaches so fast. You can't expect to win in this league by changing your coaching staff out every 3 seasons. It just doesn't work. It's never worked. And you look at the teams that are struggling today and look at how often they change their coaching staff, whether it's offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, head coach. Changing your assistants, that's one thing. Elevating, getting better at positional groups, that's one thing. Changing your head coach, offense, defensive coordinator every other season, unless they've been promoted to a head coaching position or a GM position, that can't happen if you want to stay successful. And that's what needs to happen here in Detroit, is we need to keep these guys around and allow them to continue building the way that they are. So anyway, that's it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed today's show. Do us a favor and like the stream so that we can get the channel put back into the algorithm. Taking too much time away from YouTube can put your channel kind of in the dumps. So I'd appreciate your help there. Also, if you get a chance after the show today, check out sportspider.com. Give our sponsor some love. Go in and check out. There's a link here in every description of our shows where you can click the link. It brings you right to the Detroit Lions page, and that'll help you build your own way of getting your news, which is the way you want it. And you can build I think they do offer some pay opportunities now where you can kind of build, things a little bit differently on Sports Spider. But it's free, check it out. It's a great way to get all your sports in one place. And that's Sports Spider, SPYDER.com. Check them out today. And again, do us a favor, give us a like, share the stream, bring your friends in, subscribe if you haven't yet. If you haven't, I'd question why. I would love to earn your subscription. So give us a chance. Once we hit 5,000, we're giving away our first mini helmet. To everyone else that's still waiting on a couple of things from the consolation prizes, still working on that today. Obviously, last night was a nightmare for everybody. So I'm going to get on the phone to Fanatics right now on my way to the old doctor and get all that stuff figured out, because I still haven't seen the email come through. Eric, any last words today?
Go Lions.
All right. We'll finish with that.
Man.
All right, you guys.
Wait for the schedule release.
Go Lions. Schedule coming out And we've got rookie minicamp that starts this weekend. Tonight, I'm going to talk about the winners, the standouts, the losers of this potential rookie minicamp. Are there really any losers? I don't know. We've got some invites we'll talk about tonight, and we'll get all into that around 8 p.m. and do the show that we wanted to do last night. You guys have a great morning today. We'll check you out tomorrow. Take care. See you, Eric. Have a good day.
Bye, everybody.